Have you ever let one moment of anger ruin your entire day? One insult, one rude comment, and suddenly you're hijacked by emotion, thrown off course and saying things you later regret. Why does it feel like we have no control when emotions flare? And more importantly, how do we take that control back? The Stoics believed that your mind, not other people, not circumstances, is your true battlefield. They taught that power doesn't lie in reacting louder, but in not reacting at all. In choosing calm over chaos, in refusing to hand over your peace to someone who doesn't deserve it. This video will show you exactly how to never get angry or upset with anyone or anything again. Not by suppressing your feelings, but by rewiring the way you respond. You'll learn actionable, battle-tested Stoic techniques to help you pause before reacting, detach from what doesn't serve you, and master your emotions like a warrior of the mind. You're not weak for struggling. You're human. Every man has faced the heat of anger and the sting of disrespect, but few ever learn to rise above it. That's where you change. So if you've ever felt exhausted from being emotionally hijacked, this is for you. Like this video, subscribe for more Stoic strategies, and share it with someone who needs their peace back. Because once you understand Stoicism, you don't just manage anger, you become untouchable. And that changes everything. 1. Reframe emotional outbursts as habits you can unlearn. You weren't born angry. You weren't born snapping at people in traffic, slamming doors, or replaying conversations in your head for hours. That reaction, what feels automatic now, was learned. Picked up over the years of stress, pride, and a world that constantly tells men they need to be tough, loud, and dominant. But here's the truth. Real strength isn't loud. It's silent. And the most powerful man in the room is the one who doesn't flinch, doesn't bark back, and doesn't let his peace be disturbed by small things. Anger is not just a feeling, it's a habit. And like any habit, it can be broken. But first, you have to see it for what it is. A chain reaction that only keeps going because you feed it. A guy cuts you off, your boss talks down to you, your partner says something sharp, and before your brain catches up, your mouth fires. That's the cycle. And most men stay trapped in it their whole lives, believing it's just who they are. But the Stoics saw it differently. They didn't see anger as a personality trait. They saw it as a weakness in disguise. Epictetus once said, "Any person capable of anger is a slave to it." That's harsh, but it's true. When you react blindly, you hand your power to the very thing that triggered you. You become predictable, easy to manipulate, and emotionally exhausted. Now, picture this. You're standing in line at the DMV. You've already been waiting an hour. Someone cuts right in front of you, bold as day. You feel it rise. Tight chest, clenched jaw, that urge to bark back. That moment right there, that's your battlefield. You either fight the same old war you always lose, or you pause and ask one simple question. Will getting angry make this better? You know the answer. You've lived the answer. You've lashed out before. And what did it bring you? Nothing but more stress, more regret, and more distance from the man you're trying to become. This is where Stoicism shifts everything. You don't need to suppress your feelings. You need to step outside them. Watch them like clouds passing through the sky. Acknowledge them, but don't let them drive. The mind, the rational self, that's the driver. That's the power Stoics built through discipline. Most men go through life thinking their anger is justified. That's proof they care. That staying calm means weakness or apathy, but it's the opposite. Anyone can blow up. That's easy. What's hard, what takes discipline, maturity, and real backbone, is to stay composed when everything around you is trying to shake you. When someone disrespects you and you don't give them the satisfaction of seeing you flinch, that's dominance. When life throws chaos at you and you stand still, that's control. So what do you do next time that fire rises in your chest? You pause, you breathe, you remind yourself, this anger is a habit. I don't need to wear it anymore. And then you walk away, not because you're weak, but because you've grown too strong to waste your energy on things that don't deserve it. You're not here to be triggered. You're here to take your power back. That begins not with the world changing, but with you responding differently. Respond like a man who owns his mind. Respond like a Stoic. 2. Control yourself instead of trying to control others. It's easy to explode, easy to raise your voice, throw a jab, or storm out of the room. That's what most men do when they feel disrespected. Lash out to regain some sense of power. But that kind of power is fake. It burns hot, fades fast, and always leaves you feeling weaker than before. Real control doesn't come from dominating someone else. It comes from mastering yourself in the heat of the moment. Anger tricks you. It tells you that if you don't react, you're weak. That if someone pushes you, you need to push back harder. That silence is surrender. But think back. How many times has getting angry actually solved anything? You yell, and the other person yells louder. You prove your point, but lose the relationship. You win the argument, but lose sleep over what you said. And in the end, you feel drained, because you were never really in control. You were just reacting. Now imagine this. You're in a meeting at work. Your manager criticizes your idea in front of the whole team, unfairly, even arrogantly. You feel the heat rising. Every part of you wants to fire back, defend your name, shut him down, but something stops you. A voice inside says, if I respond now, I'll only make this worse. So you pause, you breathe, you say, thanks for the feedback, I'll revisit it, and you move on. Later in private, you speak with clarity, not emotion. That is control. That is a strength. And that is Stoic. Marcus Aurelius said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. The Stoics didn't believe in letting pride run the show. They believed in response over reaction, clarity over chaos. They understood what many men still don't. Trying to control other people is a losing game. What you can control, and always could, is how you choose to show up. The mistake most men make is believing that silence means weakness, that walking away makes you look less of a man. But think about the last time someone lost it in front of you. Did you respect them more, or did they lose power in your eyes? Rage is loud, but respect is quiet. When you stay calm in the face of provocation, you become untouchable. And that unnerves people far more than shouting ever could. The Stoic path doesn't mean you never speak up. It means you choose how and when you speak, on your terms, not your angers. When you learn to delay your reaction, to let the emotion pass before you act, you create space. And in that space, you find wisdom. You make better choices. You keep your self-respect intact. Next time someone disrespects you, don't take the bait. Let them act small. You stay solid, not because you're afraid to respond, but because you're choosing not to fall into their storm. You rise above it, not for them, but for yourself. That's what control really looks like. It's not about having the last word, it's about having the last piece. So start today. Don't try to control the room. Control your breath, your words, your face, your energy. You'll walk out of every conflict with something most men never find, your dignity untouched. And that's a win no one can take from you. 3. Build calm like a muscle, through daily practice. You can't expect to be calm in chaos if you've never practiced calm in silence. That's the part most men miss. They wait until they're angry, disrespected, or overwhelmed, and only then do they try to control themselves. But emotional strength doesn't show up on command. It's trained, it's earned. It's built in the quiet moments when no one's watching. Just like your body won't grow stronger without consistent training, your mind won't suddenly hold steady under pressure unless you've been working on it daily. Self-mastery isn't a switch you flip, it's a skill you forge. Think about a man who's never touched weights suddenly walking into a gym and trying to lift 300 pounds. He gets crushed. The same goes for your emotions. If you never train yourself to pause, to breathe, to sit with discomfort instead of reacting, then the first time life hits you hard, you fold. Not because you're weak, but because you're untrained. Now imagine this. You're home after a long day. Your kid spills juice on your laptop. Your instinct fires, you want to yell, but something clicks. You've been working on this. Instead of reacting, you pause, you breathe, you say, let's clean it up. That moment feels small, but it's not. That's a rep. That's strength in action. And that rep will serve you in far bigger storms. Stoicism isn't a philosophy built for monks on a mountain. It was designed for real life, for soldiers, leaders, workers, fathers, people surrounded by stress, noise, and conflict. It teaches that peace isn't found in isolation. It's found by training your mind to stay still in the middle of the storm. And that training starts with the little things. Waking up early to reflect, journaling your thoughts before bed, choosing silence over sarcasm when someone frustrates you. These aren't empty rituals, they're workouts for the soul. The mistake most men make is waiting for the fire to prove they can stay cool. But that's not how it works. You prepare in advance. You build rituals that strengthen your focus, deepen your breathing, and sharpen your awareness. Because when pressure hits, you don't rise to the occasion, you fall to the level of your training. The Stoics understood this. Marcus Aurelius wrote every day, reflecting on what triggered him, what tested him, and how he could respond better tomorrow. Not because he was weak, but because he wanted to grow stronger. And Epictetus, once a slave, taught that discipline begins not in the grand gestures, but in the daily control of thought and emotion. They practiced calm as a habit, not a reaction. So if you want to stop being the man who always loses it when things go wrong, start being the man who prepares before they do. Sit with your discomfort instead of reaching for a distraction. Notice your breath when you're tempted to speak. Reflect at the end of the day, even if it's just for 5 minutes. These aren't small acts. They're your emotional weightlifting. No one's born a Stoic, and no one wakes up with perfect self-control. But the man who commits, who repeats, who trains, he becomes untouchable. You build that calm like you build anything else, with effort, with practice, with time. So don't wait for the world to test you. Test yourself every day. Because the man who trains his mind in stillness wins when the noise comes. 4. Let go of what doesn't serve you. You had your whole day planned. Wake up early, hit the gym, knock out your tasks, and feel on top of everything. Then the traffic hits. Someone canceled a meeting last minute. Your boss piles more on your plate with zero notice. Now the plan is wrecked and frustration builds fast. That tightness in your chest, that heat in your throat, it's not from the event. It's from your resistance to it. You're not angry because things changed. You're angry because you thought they wouldn't. But the world doesn't care about your schedule. Life doesn't ask for your permission before it changes course. And the longer you cling to how you wanted things to go, the more you suffer. That's not weakness. That's attachment. An attachment left unchecked becomes a trap. A man who needs everything to go right to stay calm is a man who will never know peace. Letting go isn't giving up. It's recognizing what's not worth holding. It's learning to tell the difference between what's in your hands and what's slipping through your fingers, no matter how tightly you grip. The Stoics understood this better than anyone. They didn't waste energy on traffic, rude people, or changing plans. They saved that energy for what they could actually shape: their character, their mindset, their response. So when something throws off your day, don't immediately react. Step back. Ask yourself, is this in my control? If the answer is no, don't fuel it with your attention. Let it pass like bad weather. You're not ignoring it. You're choosing not to drown in it. That's not denial. That's discipline. The common mistake most men make is believing that control means forcing things to fit. But real control is about adaptation. Power isn't making the world obey. It's staying calm when it doesn't. That's why Stoicism isn't passive. It's precise. It doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop wasting care on what can't be changed, and that shift right there frees up your strength for what truly matters. Now picture this. You're in a parking lot. A stranger backs into your car, leaves a dent, then shrugs like it's no big deal. You want to erupt. You want justice. But after that first wave of emotion, you pause. You ask yourself, will raging at him fix the dent? Will it make him care more? No. So you do the paperwork, you stay calm, you protect your energy, and you drive away. Not just with a damaged bumper, but with your dignity intact. That's the move. That's the win. Not because you let him off easy, but because you didn't let him take anything more than metal. He doesn't get your peace, your night, your health. You kept those. Because you let go of what wasn't worth keeping. Stoic strength doesn't shout. It doesn't cling. It releases. And in that release, there's real control. So start asking yourself more often, is this mine to hold? If it's not, let it go. Because the man who knows what to carry and what to drop doesn't get angry at every storm. He walks through it, calm, clear, and unshaken. And that man, no matter the chaos, remains in control. 5. Turn conflict into a personal test of mastery. You can't avoid conflict. Not if you're alive, working, dealing with people, building something real. Someone will challenge you, misunderstand you, talk down to you, or push your limits. That's just life. But the way most men approach conflict is reactive. They see it as a threat to their pride, a moment to win or prove something. So they tense up, raise their voice, and try to dominate. But in doing so, they miss what conflict really is. It's not a threat to your power. It's a mirror of it. Conflict reveals where you still lose control, where your ego still takes the lead. You're still a slave to other people's opinions. And this is exactly why the Stoics treated every confrontation, every insult, every unfair moment, not as a problem, but as practice. They believed life constantly gives you reps. Opportunities to strengthen your mind by refusing to be pulled down by the noise. Picture this. You're standing at the counter of a hardware store. You've been waiting patiently while the clerk helps someone else. Then a guy behind you jumps ahead, waves a receipt, and demands to be served first. He raises his voice. Everyone turns. And there you are, heart racing, jaw tight, ready to explode. But you don't. Instead, you step back internally. You ask yourself, what's actually at risk here? My time, my ego, or my peace? And right there you choose, not to roll over, but to rise above. That's not weakness. That's power with precision. The mistake many men make is thinking calm equals surrender. Not reacting means letting people walk over you, but letting your emotions hijack you. That's giving your power away. The Stoic doesn't avoid the confrontation. He just doesn't let it control him. He speaks when needed, but not with fire. He speaks with clarity. Because he knows the only thing worse than being disrespected is lowering yourself to match that disrespect. The more you see every challenge as a test, not of who's right, but of who's in control, the more unshakable you become. Conflict turns from a battlefield into a gym. You stop wasting energy on petty arguments. You stop letting small people shrink your world. And instead, you use each moment to grow your strength. That's how Marcus Aurelius lived. He ruled an empire, faced betrayal, war, and politics, yet chose stillness. He didn't chase revenge. He chased integrity. Because he understood that every interaction is a chance to practice self-mastery. Not once in a while, but every day. And the men who take that approach don't just survive conflict. They walk through it unchanged, untouchable. So the next time someone pushes your buttons, try this. Instead of snapping back, say nothing. Instead of proving a point, protect your energy. Instead of letting their chaos become yours, become the calm they can't reach. Not to look good, not to be liked, but because you've trained yourself to rise above what isn't worth your fall. You're not here to react to every insult. You're here to sharpen your edge. And every moment of conflict is a chance to do exactly that. Respond with control. That's how you win. And every time you do, you prove something far greater than dominance. You prove you've mastered the hardest battlefield of all, yourself. 6. Stay present. Because your imagination makes you angry. It's not the moment that makes you angry. It's your mind racing 10 steps ahead or spiraling 10 steps behind. You're not mad about what someone said. You're mad about what they meant, what might happen next, what it says about you, what you should have said back. That noise in your head? That's where most of your suffering comes from. And until you learn to stop living in the past or the future, you'll keep losing control in the only moment that matters, now. Men don't talk about this much, but it happens all the time. You get cut off in traffic. That's 3 seconds of inconvenience. But in your head, you replay it for the next 30 minutes. You imagine confronting the guy, yelling and showing him who's boss. You carry that weight into your next call, your next meeting, even your dinner table. The moment's gone, but your mind drags it like a chain. And that's how small things become heavy burdens, because you never learn to let them go at the moment they happened. Stoicism cuts through this mental clutter like a blade. It says, you only ever have now, and now there is no insult, no imagined outcome, no history to fix. There is only breath, action, choice. Marcus Aurelius trained himself to snap back to the present every time his thoughts wandered. He reminded himself, you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. Not tomorrow, not after you win the argument. Right now. The common trap is believing your thoughts are facts. That's just because you're thinking it. It must be true. But most of what you react to isn't real, it's imagined. The Stoics understood that an untamed mind is the root of unnecessary pain. that your imagination, if left unchecked, will build enemies that don't exist and arguments that never happened. Try this instead. You're walking into a conversation with someone you don't like. You're already bracing for conflict, expecting disrespect. That tension? It's not from anything they said. It's from the future you've already created in your head. Stop. Come back. Be in the moment. Maybe they will say something rude. Maybe they won't. Either way, you'll handle it better from a grounded mind than a racing one. This is why the practice of mindfulness isn't just spiritual fluff. It's a tactical advantage. It keeps your head clear when your instincts want chaos. You don't have to sit cross-legged for an hour to get it. You just have to notice your breath, your posture, the sound in the room, the feeling of your feet on the ground. Every time your mind wants to spin stories, you bring it back. You train it, like a muscle, to stay here. And when you do, you stop overreacting to things that aren't even happening. You stop reliving what you can't fix. You stop rehearsing what you don't need to say. You start responding, not from anxiety, not from fear, but from presence. That's where your calm lives. That's where your power lives. You don't control what has already happened. You don't control what hasn't happened yet, but you do control now. And if you can own now, even just for a few breaths, you're not just practicing Stoicism, you're living free. And that's the kind of strength no one can take from you. 7. Drop the weight of resentment before it ages you. Resentment doesn't just poison your mind, it wears your body down. You've seen it. The man who looks tired even when he's rested, who walks heavy even when he carries nothing, who flinches at kindness because he's used to betrayal. That weight isn't physical, it's emotional. And the longer you hold on to anger, blame, and bitterness, the more it eats away at your energy, your clarity, your ability to feel light again. Most men don't even notice it happening. They think they've moved on just because they're silent. But silence isn't healing. And just because you don't talk about it doesn't mean it isn't shaping how you speak, how you trust, how you live. That grudge you're holding from 5 years ago, it's on your shoulders now, in your sleep. How fast you snap when someone barely crosses a line. And that's exactly why the Stoics viewed forgiveness not as some moral obligation, but as self-preservation. Letting go isn't about making peace with what was done to you. It's about refusing to let it keep owning you. Because every ounce of resentment you hold robs you of peace in the present. And no one deserves that kind of power over your life, not even the person who wronged you. Epictetus said, "You may fetter my leg, but not even Zeus can get the better of my will." That's what forgiveness is. Not approved, not forgetting, but refusing to be shackled from the inside. Think of a moment when someone crossed the line. Maybe they lied, left, or embarrassed you in front of others. You told yourself you'd never forget, and maybe you didn't. But every time you think of them, your stomach tightens, your energy drops, your peace leaves. That's not a strength. That's self-inflicted punishment. You're reliving what they did long after they've forgotten it. And that's the trap, thinking that holding on protects you, when in fact it weakens you. The Stoic doesn't hold anger like armor. He releases it like fire in his hands, because he knows it burns the one who carries it most. Forgiveness doesn't mean trusting them again. It means reclaiming space in your heart for something better, something lighter. And it starts with one choice. Stop feeding the story of what they did. Every time you replay the offense, you reinforce the wound. So stop rehearsing pain. Start protecting your energy. You're in the break room. Someone throws a slick comment. You know it's a jab. You could clap back. You could carry it home. Talk about it with your buddy. Let it replay in your mind till midnight. Or you could smile. Not because you're weak, but because you're done carrying trash that isn't yours. You breathe. You walk out. And you leave the weight behind. That's not passivity. That's power under control. That's knowing what's worth your energy and what isn't. And when you start dropping resentment, you'll feel it. In your posture, in your sleep, in how clear your thoughts become. Forgiveness isn't a favor to them, it's a gift you give to yourself. Let it go, not for their sake, but so you can stop dragging your past into your present. You've got more life ahead than behind. Make space for it. Because the man who travels light moves faster, breathes deeper, and lives free. And you can be that man if you're ready to put the weight down. 8. Pause before you react. it changes everything. It happens faster than you think. One sentence, one tone, one offhand remark, and you're already halfway to raising your voice or slamming the door. By the time you realize you're angry, your reaction has already taken over. That's how most men live, on autopilot, pushed by outside triggers, pulled by inner tension. And in that split second between the spark and the fire, they give away their power. But what if that split second was the place you took it back? Stoicism begins in the pause, the space between what happens and what you do next. That's the battlefield, not the argument, not the insult. The real fight is in that breath, that tiny delay where you choose, do I react like I always do, or do I respond like the man I'm trying to become? Most don't even see that space. Their emotions outrun their awareness. But once you start recognizing it, you realize how much control you actually have and how often you've been throwing it away. Let's say you're at home. Your teenage son talks back again. That tone, that look in his eyes, it stings. You're about to snap. But something holds you. You take one breath, then you say, I'm going to respond in a minute. That move right there, that's power. Not silence out of fear, but restraint with purpose. You've just interrupted a cycle that's played out for years in millions of households, and now you're writing a new one. The mistake is believing that if you don't react fast, you'll lose respect. That hesitation means weakness. But what you gain in those 2 seconds is clarity. You give your brain time to process, to decide, to aim. That's what the Stoics trained for, not the absence of emotion, but the mastery of timing. Marcus Aurelius didn't say don't feel. He said, don't act unless it serves the greater good. And that good often starts with silence. We live in a world that rewards fast reactions. Text back now, respond now, defend yourself instantly. But emotional discipline isn't about speed, it's about accuracy. Saying the right thing at the right time with the right tone. And you can't do that if you let adrenaline do the talking. You need to stop, to breathe, to name what you're feeling before it becomes something you regret. It doesn't take years of meditation. It takes one choice. When the pressure hits, you pause. You tell yourself, I don't need to react yet. You walk to the other room. You take 10 deep breaths. You ask, what's the outcome I want here? And then, only then you speak. You move. You act. Not from ego, from intention. The Stoic man isn't cold. He's clear. He's not slow. He's steady. He doesn't repress what he feels. He commands it. Because in that pause, he sees more. He sees the consequences, he sees the opportunity, and he steps into both with a steady hand. So from this point forward, treat every moment of tension as your training ground. When your heart starts to race, when your face heats up, when your fists want to clench, don't move. Not yet. Let the moment settle, then decide how to own it. Because the man who masters the pause doesn't just win the argument, he wins himself. And that is a victory worth choosing again and again. Now you know, you are not a prisoner of your emotions. You are not bound to anger, resentment, or the need to react. What the Stoics taught, what men like Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus lived, is that calm is not given, it's earned. Self-control is not about denial, it's about discipline. And peace isn't weakness, it's power, sharpened in silence. We've explored how anger is a habit that can be unlearned, how real strength comes from mastering yourself, and how emotional calm is built like a muscle through small, daily choices. You've seen that letting go is not surrender, but wisdom. Staying present is the best defense against stress, and that in every moment of tension, you have a window, a pause, where your character is forged. This isn't theory, this is your life. It's in the way you respond to your partner, how you hold your ground in meetings, how you walk away from noise and stand firm in your values. Each moment is a chance to practice. And the more you practice, the more natural it becomes. This is how you stop being triggered by everything and start becoming untouchable. So I invite you, begin with today. Train your breath, hold your words, master your pause, and build a mind that cannot be shaken by what it cannot control. If this message spoke to you, share your story in the comments. What moment tested you recently? What have you learned from holding back? We learn by reflecting, and we grow by helping others do the same. Because in the end, the man who can master himself, his thoughts, his reactions, his energy, is the man who owns his life. And that is the kind of strength that endures. What if no one could ever shake you again? Not with words, not with silence, not with betrayal. Most men walk through life easily provoked. A disrespectful comment, a broken promise, a simple delay. Suddenly they're angry, bitter, or drained. Not because the world is cruel, but because they've never learned to master their emotional reactions. But the Stoics knew something we've forgotten. Power belongs to the man who stays calm under pressure. Mental strength isn't about force, it's about control. And self-control begins with one unshakable truth: you don't have to react. In this video, you're going to learn how to build stoic emotional control, how to stop letting people push your buttons, and how to protect your peace like a man who answers to no one's chaos. You'll understand why lowering your expectations isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Why silence isn't surrender, it's strategy. Why your emotions are not the enemy, but your reaction to them can be. If you've ever felt like people take your calm for granted, or that life constantly pulls you off balance, you're not alone. But today, that changes. This is not motivation, it's a transformation. Stay with me. What you're about to hear could shift how you deal with everything. If this speaks to you, like the video, subscribe and share this with someone who needs it. Because strength isn't loud, it's steady. And from this point on, nothing and no one gets to control your peace again. 1. Make self-control your shield. There's a moment, small, almost forgettable, when a man gives away his power. Someone interrupts him, someone mocks him, someone ignores him, and inside, a storm brews. His chest tightens, his jaw clenches, he speaks louder than necessary. Just like that, the calm is gone. Not because the other person was strong, but because he reacted. And in that reaction, he surrendered. We often mistake reaction for strength. We think the man who roars back is powerful. But the truth is colder. Power isn't in the noise, it's in the silence you choose. Self-control isn't the absence of emotion, it's the refusal to be ruled by it. You don't need to become numb, you need to become precise. Anger is instinct. It's fast, loud, hot, and dangerous. It feels like action, but it often leads to regret. When someone insults you and you explode, they win because they got to you. They dictated your state, and without knowing it, you let them write your script. A man who is easily provoked is a man who has no walls, no boundaries. His emotions are public property. Anyone can walk in, press a button, and own him for a moment. Now imagine another man. He hears the same insult, but nothing shifts. His breath remains steady. His gaze doesn't flinch. He's not suppressing a reaction. He has mastered it because he trained for this. Because he knows emotional control is not about appearing tough. It's about not giving strangers the keys to your peace. This is Stoic power. It's not about ego, it's about ownership of your time, your energy, your emotional space. You've probably experienced this before. You're in traffic, someone cuts you off, your pulse spikes, words rise to your lips, and for what? They're gone. But now you're tense, distracted, off balance. That's the cost of reaction. You pay for it long after the moment passes. The Stoic man knows this, so he pauses. He lets the urge come, but not take over. He breathes, he remembers, the world doesn't owe him perfect order. His control lies within. Most people live in survival mode, ready to defend, to prove, to retaliate. But that posture weakens you. It places your identity in the hands of others. If they offend you, you respond. If they praise you, you smile. You're no longer grounded, you're reactive. And a reactive man is a slave to the world's mood swings. So how do you build the shield? You start with the pause. When triggered, don't speak, don't move. Feel the wave inside you rise, and don't ride it. Observe it, acknowledge it, but don't obey it. That pause is your power. It's where you break the pattern. Over time, you become less reactive, more composed. You stop fighting noise with noise. You stop chasing justice in small conflicts. You protect your energy like it's your lifeblood, because it is. This isn't about being passive. A Stoic man doesn't ignore injustice, but he knows when to act and when to let go. He knows when to speak and when silence carries more force. He chooses his battles, and when he engages, he does so with clarity, not heat. You don't need to prove your strength, you need to own it. The loudest man in the room often lacks the most control. The quiet one, the calm one, the one who doesn't flinch. That's the man people feel. That's the man people respect. From this moment forward, let your first instinct not be reaction, but stillness. Let stillness become your habit. Let calm be your reputation. When you master that, you become untouchable. Not because the world stops testing you, but because it can no longer reach what it once controlled. 2. Lower expectations of others. You keep getting disappointed because you keep expecting too much. That's the trap. It begins quietly, with a thought that someone should know better, should do more, should understand. You expect them to say the right thing, to appreciate you, to respect your boundaries without being told. But when they don't, you feel it. Frustration, anger, even betrayal. You start to believe people are failing you. But the truth is simpler and harder. They're just being who they are. The pain doesn't come from their behavior. It comes from your expectation that they'd be someone else. Expectation is a silent contract you wrote, but no one else signed it. You thought a friend would defend you, a partner would be more patient, and a coworker would recognize your effort, but they didn't. And in that gap between what you hoped for and what you got, your peace disappeared. That gap is where resentment grows. You start to carry the weight of what you wish someone would be, and it begins to crush you. The Stoics didn't waste time blaming others for being who they were. Marcus Aurelius woke up every morning, reminding himself that he'd meet the ungrateful, the arrogant, the dishonest. Not because he was negative, because he was prepared. When you accept human nature, you stop demanding perfection. You stop handing your peace to the nearest disappointment. You don't expect silence from the storm or clarity from confusion. You learn to see people as they are, not as you want them to be. Imagine walking into a room expecting nothing. You don't assume the waiter will be polite, the driver will be calm, or your friend will remember your birthday. You simply observe, you engage, you respond, but you don't react. You've freed yourself from the leash of assumption. You're no longer shocked when someone disappoints you, because you've let go of the idea that they owe you something they never promised. That freedom, it's subtle, but it changes everything. Most men tie their inner peace to how others behave. A stranger's rudeness can ruin their morning. A family member's silence can trigger weeks of tension. But what if you could untie that knot? What if you stopped expecting others to deliver your peace to you wrapped in a bow? What if you stopped demanding that broken people act like whole ones? That's where Stoicism breathes. It meets reality on its own terms. It doesn't demand fairness from people who don't even know what fairness means. It doesn't ask for understanding from those who are still at war with themselves. It says, meet people where they are, and don't let it move you. Here's what you can do right now. Think of one person who keeps disappointing you. A friend, a colleague, a relative. Ask yourself, am I upset because of what they did, or because of what I thought they should do? Write it down. Say it aloud. Let that question become a mirror, because in that moment of reflection, you'll see it clearly. You weren't betrayed. You were just assuming too much. Lowering expectations doesn't mean becoming cold. It means becoming clear. It's not the death of hope. It's the birth of understanding. You don't need to stop loving people. You need to stop letting your hopes for them become the weapon they use to hurt you. Begin with this. Today, I will see others as they are, not as I wish them to be. I will no longer beg the rain to be sunshine. I will build a shelter instead. That's Stoic freedom, not from others, but from the burden of needing them to be something else. 3. Practice indifference to provocation. Some people don't want peace. They want your reaction. They poke, they prod, they wait for you to explode, because that's how they feel in control. When you lose your temper, they win. Not because they're stronger, but because they've dragged you into their chaos. The moment you react, you step into their frame. You let them decide who you become. And that's the real loss. Not the insult, not the argument, but the fact that you let them reach your center. Indifference is not apathy. It's not ignoring injustice or pretending something doesn't hurt. Indifference in the Stoic sense means this. You don't let anything that doesn't deserve your energy take it from you. You choose where your mind rests. You decide who gets access. You protect your focus like it's sacred. Because it is. Every time you let a fool provoke you, you abandon your throne and go fight in the mud. Think of the last time someone tried to get under your skin. A stranger on the road, a colleague who disrespected you in a meeting, a family member who always knows what to say to trigger you. You felt the fire rise, the words form, the tension in your chest. That's the moment. The test. And most people fail. They speak too soon. They move too fast. They They give away the very thing they're trying to protect, their power. Now imagine a different outcome. Same insult, same provocation. But this time you pause. You feel the urge to react, but you don't. You let the words land but not enter. You observe, then decide, not worth it. And you walk away, not in retreat but in command. That's not weakness, that's dominance. The man who doesn't flinch holds the room. The man who stays calm owns the moment. Epictetus said, if someone tries to hurt you and you don't accept the injury, then they failed, because pain requires permission. Insults need agreement to stick. But when you meet their noise with stillness, when you stop responding to every push, you rise above their reach. You become untouchable, not because you fight harder, but because you don't fight at all. This doesn't mean becoming passive. You still take action when necessary. You set boundaries. You speak the truth. But you choose the battlefield. You don't get dragged into every petty war. You don't explain yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. You don't argue with noise. You walk through it. That's Stoic emotional strength. That's calm mindset training in practice. The next time someone tries to provoke you, try this. Pause for 3 seconds. Just 3. In silence, feel everything, but act on nothing. Ask yourself, do I really want to give them this much control? Then decide. That pause is the space where character is formed. That stillness is what separates the strong from the reactive. Train this daily. In small moments, at the grocery store, in traffic, during arguments. Refuse to respond just to feel better. Let your silence speak for you. Let your calm unsettle them. The man who needs to shout has already lost something. The man who doesn't blink makes everyone else shift. Let them talk. Let them mock. Let them try. But protect your energy like it's gold. Because in the end, it is. When you no longer react to every provocation, you gain something rare. You gain clarity. You gain peace. You gain yourself back. Start now. Find one situation today where you would normally snap and don't. Smile, breathe, move on. That's how a Stoic wins. Quietly, completely, without ever playing their game. 4. Treat each situation as a character test. You're not being punished, you're being prepared. That moment of irritation, that challenge that caught you off guard, it's not chaos, it's a mirror. Life is showing you who you are when things stop going your way. Most people flinch, they complain, they ask, why me? But the Stoic man asks, what am I being called to build within myself right now? Pain isn't personal, it's instructional. Every frustration is a weight for your character to lift. Every setback is a forge for your discipline. But only if you stop reacting and start responding. Only if you stop seeing yourself as the victim and start seeing yourself as the architect of your inner strength. The world doesn't get easier. You just get better at facing it. When someone disrespects you at work, when your partner snaps without warning, when a plan crumbles right before the finish line, you're standing in the gym of life. And you have 2 choices. You either let that moment shrink you, or you let it sharpen you. Most men get angry and blame. A Stoic breathes, observes, learns, and then decides, I will not waste this pain. The truth is, ease doesn't shape character. Stress does, discomfort does. That difficult conversation, that betrayal, that delay, they're not blocks in your path. They are the path. But you only see it that way when you stop running from them and start using them. Marcus Aurelius wrote, the fire turns what it consumes into flame. That's not poetry. That's training. The thing that was supposed to break you becomes part of your fuel. It's easy to be kind when people are kind. It's easy to be calm when the world cooperates. But when someone yells in your face, when life throws the unexpected, when your pride is bruised, then you see the truth. Then your values are no longer theory. They're tested. That's when strength counts. Not in comfort, but in pressure. And the man who can hold himself steady under pressure is the man who can walk through anything. Don't wait for the world to make it easier for you to grow. It won't. What you can do is change the way you see difficulty, not as a disruption, but as an invitation. You're being invited to step into a stronger version of yourself. And you don't need a perfect life to do that. You just need to treat every uncomfortable moment as training, even the small ones. Especially the small ones, the delayed email, the cold look, the traffic jam. That's where the work is done. Quietly, daily, intentionally. Here's how you apply it. The next time you feel your frustration rising, catch it early. Don't run from it. Name it. Then ask, what is this shaping in me? and decide on purpose how you will respond. Will you raise your voice and lose control? Or will you stand still and build endurance? Will you argue, or will you refine your ability to stay composed? Strength isn't something you switch on, it's something you practice, in moments just like this. Not by pretending you don't feel, but by choosing not to let what you feel own you. You're allowed to struggle, but you're not required to collapse. You're allowed to feel the burn. But you're also capable of turning that burn into fuel. So the next time life pushes back, don't take it as an insult. Take it as your opportunity, your chance to train what no one else can see, your character, your command, your quiet power. 5. Observe emotions without letting them rule. A man doesn't fall because he feels. He falls because he obeys every feeling. Anger rises and he acts. Fear whispers and he freezes. Shame appears and he hides. But what if you could watch all of it, like clouds drifting across the sky, without becoming the storm yourself? This is not about denying your emotions. It's about disarming their control. Emotions are signals. They arrive fast. They carry heat. But they are not commands. You are not your rage. You are not your anxiety. You are the one who sees them come, and if you learn to watch without merging, you stay free. Freedom isn't found in suppressing how you feel. It's found in refusing to be dragged by it. And that is a choice you can train, like a muscle. The Stoics didn't say you shouldn't feel. They said, feel it, but don't follow it blindly. Imagine you're standing in a crowded room. Someone mocks you. You feel the flash. Your jaw tightens. Your heart kicks. That's real. But now pause. Instead of snapping, you breathe. Instead of striking back, you name it. This is anger. I feel it, but I will not act on it. You've just broken the chain. You've just taken the wheel. Most people never do that. They live in reaction. They believe if it's felt, it must be expressed. But Stoic practice teaches the opposite. That between stimulus and action, a space exists. And in that space, you reclaim control. This is where emotional strength is built. Not in pretending nothing touches you, but in standing still while the storm rages inside. To do that, you must practice awareness. Noticing, without judgment. A thought comes, you don't grab it. A feeling rises, you don't let it speak for you. You observe. And by observing, you create distance. And in that distance, you find your power. Too often, we act before we think and then blame the world for the damage. But the root of chaos is never what happened outside. It's what happened inside that you never questioned. When you give emotions the microphone, your values are silenced. When you let impulses lead, your wisdom sits in the corner unused. A Stoic man reverses that order. He sees the fire but chooses not to burn. He feels the sting but doesn't strike. Because he knows that strength isn't in force, it's in restraint. And restraint is not weakness, it's clarity. It's the quiet command of someone who has learned to wait, watch, and then choose. You can start this practice at any moment. At work, when frustration builds. At home, when disappointment sets in. When tired, when provoked. Before you speak, pause. Before you act, check in. Ask yourself, how do I feel, but what do I want to build with this feeling? If the answer is nothing useful, let it pass. If the answer is growth, then act, but only after the storm inside you has calmed. Even 10 seconds of awareness can change everything. That's not a theory, that's training. Emotional resilience isn't loud or showy. It doesn't need applause. It lives in the silence between the emotion and your choice. And each time you pause, that silence grows stronger. You may feel like you're losing something by not reacting, but what you're actually doing is gaining everything. Your balance, your vision, your dignity. The world does not need more men who scream back. It needs more men who remain still, see clearly, and move only when it's time. So start now. The next time your emotions rise like a wave, don't fight them and don't follow them. Stand, breathe, observe, and walk forward by choice, not by impulse. 6. Be grateful even in discomfort. Gratitude is easy when the sun is shining and everything flows. But when the morning starts with bad news, when someone you trust lets you down, when traffic steals an hour from your life, what do you do then? Most people complain. They replay the moment. They search for someone to blame, and with every complaint, they dig deeper into bitterness. But the Stoic doesn't dig. He rises. Because he knows gratitude isn't reserved for comfort, it's a tool for clarity. To be grateful in pain is not to pretend it doesn't hurt. It's to recognize that inside discomfort lives a chance to grow. A moment to sharpen patience, to test endurance, to stretch humility. While others get lost in what's missing, the Stoic looks for what's available. A lesson, a shift in perspective, an inner muscle being exercised. He sees discomfort not as an interruption to peace, but as the place where peace is proven real. Picture this: you're waiting in line, running late, your phone is buzzing, and nothing is moving. You feel the heat rise, the urge to sigh, to snap, to wish the world would cooperate. But instead, you breathe. You look around, and you tell yourself, this too can teach me. Suddenly, it's not a line, it's a training ground. You're not wasting time, you're building tolerance. That shift, that single choice to reframe the moment, is how emotional strength is forged. Most men avoid discomfort. They chase convenience, but that creates softness, not strength. You grow when life pushes back and you choose to lean in. When you decide to ask, what is this frustration revealing about me? That question turns annoyance into insight. And when you can thank the moment for showing you what still needs work, you've taken your first step into real resilience. Seneca said, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials." That's not a metaphor, that's reality. Growth doesn't come from ease, it comes from resistance. But only if you meet resistance with the right mindset. Gratitude is that mindset. Not gratitude for injustice or cruelty, but for the opportunity to respond better than before. This is the shift. You stop asking life to be easier. You start asking to be stronger, and every hard moment becomes an answer to that request. Gratitude, then, becomes a strategy. You use it to rewire how you experience setbacks. It doesn't mean liking everything that happens. It means not wasting anything that happens, pain included. So here's your practice. At the end of each day, recall one moment that annoyed you, one small irritating scene. Then ask, what did this moment allow me to practice? Did it demand patience? Did it test my ego? Did it remind me to breathe before speaking? That's your gratitude. Not the event, but the chance it gave you. Write it down, speak it out, let it reframe how you meet tomorrow. Most people live reacting. The Stoic lives refining. He doesn't wish for comfort, he trains for clarity. And when pain arrives, he greets it with stillness, not panic. He doesn't welcome every situation, but he refuses to leave any situation without gaining something. Start doing this, not once a week, every day. Find gratitude where it hurts, plant it where it's missing, and watch how your mind begins to shift, not toward fake positivity, but toward real emotional independence. That kind of gratitude makes you calm in the chaos, focused on the noise, and more alive in the moment than anyone else around you. 7. Use time perspective to shrink problems. A small fire feels enormous when your face is too close to the flame, but take a step back and it's nothing but a flicker. That's what time does to problems. It shrinks them, not by changing the event, but by changing your view. What feels unbearable today often becomes insignificant when seen from a greater distance. But most people never take that step back. They live with their face pressed against every irritation, every insult, every delay, burning in moments that could have passed. Time perspective is the Stoic scalpel. It cuts through the illusion that now is all that matters. It teaches you to ask a better question. Will this still matter in a month, a year, 5? And suddenly that sarcastic comment, that canceled plan, that missed opportunity, it all loses weight. Because most things that shake you aren't permanent, they're passing. And the mind that knows how to wait doesn't suffer twice. You miss a flight, you lose a deal, someone forgets to say thank you. In that instant, your heart races, your mind races faster. You build stories, rehearse responses, fuel resentment. But what if you paused, not to deny the moment, but to see beyond it? What if you whispered to yourself, "This will pass. I won't even remember this next year"? That thought alone can drain the poison out of almost any emotion. Not by force, but by framing. The mistake most men make is believing urgency equals importance. They treat everything as critical. Every argument feels final. Every mistake feels fatal. But urgency lies, and the Stoic knows that. He doesn't rush to fight battles that time would dissolve on its own. He conserves his energy. He knows which pain to engage with and which pain to outlast. That's not indifference, that's discipline. Imagine standing in a storm, rain pounding, wind howling. You're soaked, shivering, angry at the sky. But then someone tells you, it'll pass in 5 minutes. You wouldn't panic. You'd wait. That's what perspective gives you. The ability to hold your ground, not because it's easy, but because you know it's temporary. You suffer more when you believe storms are forever. But the wise man knows, most aren't. Seneca once reminded us, we suffer more in imagination than in reality. When you apply time to pain, you shrink the imagination's grip. That quiet insult? Gone by next week. That failure? A stepping stone by next year. That heartbreak? A memory with edges dulled by time. And when you know that deeply, you stop bleeding from paper cuts. Here's a simple practice. When something upsets you, don't ask, why is this happening to me? Ask, how long will this matter? Then answer honestly. The truth is shorter than your reaction. That's your signal to release it. And releasing isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Let the emotion come, feel it, but don't build your identity around it. Let time carry it away while you remain grounded. You don't owe every discomfort a response. You don't need to explain your calm to people addicted to urgency. You just need to know that your peace grows as your perspective widens. Let time be your ally. Use it to filter what deserves your energy and what doesn't. And soon, you'll realize how many of your problems only felt big because you stood too close. Back up. Breathe. Zoom out. In 5 years, most of what you stress about today won't even make the highlight reel. So stop letting passing clouds block your light. Let time reveal what matters. Let perspective return your peace. And walk through this day with a mind anchored in distance, not noise. That's how you rise, quietly, unshaken. Every man wants strength, not the loud kind that seeks attention, but the silent kind that cannot be shaken. What you've heard today isn't theory, it's practice. It's the quiet discipline of emotional control, the ability to pause, to think, to choose, and to protect your peace like your life depends on it, because in many ways it does. When you begin to master your reactions, lower your expectations of others, and treat every frustration as a test of character, you shift. You stop being a slave to your emotions. You stop being pulled in every direction by noise, by people, by circumstances. You start living with clarity. The Stoics weren't saints. They were men who struggled like you. But they trained their minds daily, through self-reflection, through stillness, through deliberate response. And now you can do the same. You don't need perfect conditions to begin. You just need presence. You need practice. You need to remember that inner peace is not found. It's built, habit by habit, choice by choice. So today, start small. When someone says something rude, don't respond. When your plans shift, don't complain. When discomfort shows up, meet it with awareness. Train your emotional strength like a muscle. Let every challenge become your practice ground. And over time, the world will remain loud, but you won't. I invite you to share your thoughts in the comments. What moment recently tested your peace? How did you respond? Let this space become your journal of growth, a reflection of who you are becoming. Remember, true calm isn't the absence of conflict. It's the refusal to surrender your mind to chaos. Hold that truth, live it, and carry it with you, quietly but unshakably. There's a saying I love. Strength isn't something you can see when you look at someone. True strength isn't measured by what's visible on the outside. It's something deeper, something that reveals itself in the way you face challenges, rise after every fall, and refuse to let life's difficulties defeat you. Sometimes, you might feel like you're just surviving, doing the bare minimum to get through the day. But what you don't realize is that even in those moments, you're showing incredible strength. This kind of strength doesn't come from lifting weights or wearing a brave face. It comes from persistence, resilience, and the quiet determination to keep moving forward even when no one is watching. In today's video, we'll explore 7 signs of inner strength, inspired by Stoic philosophy. These are not flashy traits, but essential life skills that define what it means to be truly strong. And most importantly, we'll guide you on how to practice these Stoic lessons in your daily life to find inner peace and lasting balance. If this resonates with you, share it with someone who needs a reminder of their own quiet power. A friend, a loved one, even a coworker. It's a small act that could make a big difference. So, are you ready to recognize and embrace the strength within you? Let's begin. 1. Emotional control. Imagine this. You've spent weeks preparing for an important project. Everything seems to be on track, and then suddenly, something goes wrong. Or perhaps, out of nowhere, someone you trust criticizes you unfairly. What would you do? Most people let emotions take over. They might react with anger, frustration, or even despair. It's natural, isn't it? But reacting in the heat of the moment often leads to regret. Let me tell you a story about my boss. He is not just a leader, but a master of emotional control. I've watched him handle moments of intense pressure with a calm that is almost unshakable. When a project of ours faced an unexpected setback, everyone else panicked. Some blamed circumstances, others blamed each other. But he remained composed. He asked questions, sought solutions, and guided the team with clarity and focus. It wasn't that he didn't feel the stress, he simply chose not to let it control him. This kind of control is not about suppressing emotions, but mastering them. As Marcus Aurelius, a Stoic philosopher, said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." Emotional control is the ability to focus on what you can change while letting go of what you can't. It's the calm within the storm, the strength that turns chaos into clarity. Think about it. How often have you spoken words in anger that you wished you could take back? How many decisions made in frustration ended up making things worse? Emotions are powerful, and when unchecked, they can lead us astray. The Stoics understood this deeply. Seneca wrote, "No man is free who is not master of himself." To live freely, you must guide your emotions with reason, not be ruled by them. The path to emotional control begins with small, intentional steps. When frustration or anger rises, pause. Take a deep breath and give yourself space to think. This moment of pause is powerful. It allows you to respond thoughtfully instead of reacting impulsively. Next, ask yourself a simple question. Is this within my control? The Stoics believed in focusing only on what you can influence. If the answer is no, let it go. If yes, redirect your energy towards solving the problem, not fueling the emotion. Reflection is another key. At the end of the day, take a moment to think about situations where your emotions got the better of you. What triggered them? How could you handle them differently next time? This practice, though simple, builds awareness and resilience over time. Perspective is equally important. When faced with a challenge, ask yourself, will this matter a year from now? Often, what feels overwhelming in the moment becomes trivial in hindsight. Shifting your perspective reduces the emotional weight of temporary setbacks. Emotional control is not about being detached or emotionless. It's about understanding your feelings, choosing your responses, and remaining steady in the face of uncertainty. It's a practice, a commitment to responding with intention rather than impulse. With this mastery, you'll find that life's challenges become less daunting and more like opportunities to grow. True strength lies not in the absence of emotion, but in the ability to guide it wisely, step by step. 2. Taking responsibility. You are truly strong when you take responsibility for your actions. Imagine this scenario. You've promised a colleague that you'll finish part of a report by the weekend. The days pass quickly, and with other pressing tasks, you miss the deadline. What do? Many might be tempted to make excuses, blaming a heavy workload, unforeseen circumstances, or even other people. But taking responsibility means acknowledging your failure without hesitation. You own up to your mistake, apologize, and make it right. At first glance, this might seem like a small act, but it speaks volumes about your character. Responsibility is not about avoiding mistakes, it's about how you respond to them. As Seneca wisely noted, every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end. Mistakes are inevitable. They mark the end of one attempt and the start of learning. What defines you is whether you use those moments to grow. Taking responsibility requires courage. It's not easy to admit when we're wrong, especially when the world often celebrates perfection. But let's face it, perfection is an illusion. We're all flawed, and we all stumble. True strength comes from facing those flaws head-on and choosing to make amends, rather than hiding behind excuses. I once worked with someone who exemplified this beautifully. She was leading a major project, and an oversight on her part delayed a key milestone. Instead of blaming her team or circumstances, she addressed the issue with transparency. She gathered the team, admitted her error, and presented a clear plan to resolve the setback. Her honesty inspired trust and respect, not just because she took ownership, but because she showed us how to lead with integrity. When you take responsibility, you claim ownership of your life. It's an empowering act as it reminds you that you are not a victim of your circumstances. You are the author of your own story. Each mistake becomes a lesson, a stepping stone toward becoming wiser and stronger. The Stoics teach us that responsibility is a path to freedom. Epictetus said, "It is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." When you take responsibility, you free yourself from the weight of excuses and blame. You choose to act rather than be acted upon, shaping your future with deliberate intention. So how can we practice taking responsibility in everyday life? Start small. If you forget to return a friend's call, don't make excuses. Apologize sincerely and set things right. When faced with criticism, resist the urge to defend yourself immediately. Reflect on whether there's truth in the feedback, and if there is, act on it. Remember, responsibility also means acknowledging your successes. It's not just about owning mistakes. It's about celebrating the times when your actions made a positive difference. This balance keeps you grounded, allowing you to grow without being weighed down by self-doubt or inflated by pride. Life will present countless moments where you must choose between blame and accountability. The easy path is often to shift the burden elsewhere, but the stronger path, the Stoic path, is to accept the truth, however uncomfortable, and use it as a catalyst for growth. Taking responsibility doesn't just make you a better colleague, friend, or partner. It makes you a better version of yourself. It builds resilience, fosters trust, and helps you create a life of integrity and purpose. In a world that often avoids accountability, those who embrace it shine as examples of what true strength looks like. Word by word, action by action, responsibility is the foundation on which greatness is built. And it is through this foundation that you stand tall, no matter what life throws your way. 3. Facing fear. Fear is a universal emotion. It whispers doubts, paints worst-case scenarios, and tells you to step back. Yet the strongest among us don't run from fear. They face it head-on. They see fear not as an enemy, but as a teacher, a stepping stone toward growth and transformation. Consider this. You're offered an opportunity to speak in front of a crowd. Fear tells you, what if you embarrass yourself? You hesitate. But then, you take a deep breath and accept. In that moment, you've chosen growth over comfort. You've decided that the possibility of failure is worth the chance to learn and to stretch beyond your current limits. Marcus Aurelius, a Stoic emperor, once said, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment." Fear often stems from how we perceive challenges, not the challenges themselves. Now think about this. You have an exam, an interview, or a difficult conversation ahead. Fear will try to stop you by highlighting what could go wrong. A strong person, however, recognizes this voice and chooses to act despite it. They understand that courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision to move forward regardless of it. Let's look at smaller, everyday moments. Imagine hesitating to express your opinion in a meeting for fear of judgment. You pause, then speak up. Or consider the hesitation to try a new hobby because you fear you won't excel. You try anyway. These are victories, however small, where fear is faced and strength is built. The Stoics believed in preparing for challenges before they arrived. Seneca advised, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." Anticipate difficulties, but don't let them paralyze you. Instead, see them as opportunities to practice resilience. Practical strategies can help you face fears more effectively. Start with deep breathing. When fear grips you, steady your breath to calm your racing thoughts. Break tasks into smaller steps to make daunting challenges more manageable. Remind yourself that discomfort is temporary, but growth is permanent. Facing fear isn't about being fearless. It's about action. Each time you face what scares you, you become a little braver. You start to realize that fear is often an illusion, a barrier that dissolves when confronted. Life will always present challenges, but fear doesn't have to hold you back. See it for what it is, a signpost pointing toward growth. As Epictetus said, difficulties are things that show a person what they are. Embrace them. Take that next step, however small it may seem, because on the other side of fear lies transformation, a stronger, wiser, and more resilient you. In every fearful moment, there is an invitation to rise. The choice is yours. 4. Embracing solitude. There's a unique kind of strength in being comfortable with solitude, a strength that is often misunderstood. In a world that constantly demands connection and thrives on distractions, being alone is sometimes seen as a weakness, a failure to engage. But solitude, when embraced, is a powerful ally. It forces you to confront yourself, to reflect, and ultimately to grow. Imagine a quiet evening, with no notifications buzzing and no one seeking your attention. At first, the silence feels unfamiliar, maybe even uncomfortable. But slowly, the stillness becomes a mirror, reflecting truths about yourself that the noise of daily life often drowns out. This is the power of solitude. It strips away external influences and helps you understand who you truly are. Epictetus once said,